Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White, founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation. I'm here with.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Snyder, your co-host.
Yay! It's hot.
It's real hot.
Oh boy. We want to thank, of course, Rob back there behind the.
So speaking of hot,
Well, I didn't. Well, okay. Don't take it the wrong way.
it's okay. He'll be all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He's back there behind the controls.
Probably smiling from ear to ear.
And John from
Area
52 Media Group. It's hard to get that switch, but
Oh yeah, I mean, I get that. The making the switch. I remember when the Alliance, when ASAP changed its name from the Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention to the Alliance for Substance Addiction. It took me a minute. We changed our name. That's not our name right now. Our name is.
no, you have to think about what you're saying.
Yeah. But it's area. I don't know why I called it Area 54 because I'm thinking of the major highway that goes through Newport Richie.
Well, yeah, but we got 52 too.
Yeah, but I'm close. I think I'm in between 52 and 54, but I just think of 54 more. Yeah, I get the two mixed up. So it's Area 52.
Area 52
Media Group.
Yeah, we want to thank them because we get to still be here.
Yes.
We get to still be here. So we have Art for Hope coming up, and there's a lot going on already with that. And so first off, I want to thank the sponsors that we already have. Things are like, some really cool things are going to be happening. So of course, we got that QR code down there in the bottom of that little thing. That'll take you to the Art for Hope website page, which will be previewing art and maybe some of the raffle baskets and stuff that'll be available. And of course, we want to thank the Hilton Garden Inn. That's where we have the event. They are really awesome hosts, and they're really excited to have us back in person this year. So be sure to, if you're out there in the area, to High Point. What's the address on there, Rob? High Point Drive, something like that. It's 50 North Point Parkway. It's right at 54 in the Suncoast. A lot of the art that is on the main floor of the hotel is art that is kind of previewed for Art for Hope. All those pieces are available for Art for Hope. So if you go out there, you're in the neighborhood sometime, because there's a bunch of restaurants out there, Glory Days, Carrabba's, Brick Oven, something or other. But anyways, run over to the hotel and take a look at the artwork on the main floor. You could maybe even get it ahead of time if you really like it, before the event. Anyways, so yeah, the Hilton Garden Inn is awesome. And of course, Kim from 9 Round Kickboxing. She's been a guest on our show a couple times. Her and Area 52 Media Group are like they're our Hope sponsors, which that's the highest sponsorship. And then we have Greg Schindler, State Farm. They came on board. They did a fundraiser for us.
Oh,
I think it was last year.
last year.
Time just goes. I can't remember.
It was during our first year that we were.
Okay, so it would have been like last February, March, somewhere around there. So they're one of our sponsors. Our dessert sponsor is really great. Leanne's Old Fashioned Cookies is coming back. Her cookies are so good. And I'll have information, all the information on all these sponsors will be up on our Facebook pages. Leanne ships her cookies all over the United States. You can order online, and she'll ship them, and she has these really awesome decorative boxes that she puts them in. I've ordered some for clients, really good clients, ordered cookies as a thank you and had them delivered to their front door.
Nice.
And everybody just raves about them. And of course, Jackie Skelton from JR World Travel, every year she does a big lottery board that we raffle off. She's donating that again this year. I think the last time we had it in person, my brother-in-law ended up winning it. He won a few dollars off of it. And Rick Rudman is the event photographer again. He's been our photographer the whole time at every event. He's really great. We'll get some links to some of his stuff that he's has some really cool wildlife or nature photos too that he has available that are really good. And new on board this year, we're having a photo booth.
Nice.
We don't know if we're going to have a theme yet, because they asked me about it the other day, and I'm like, we've never really had a theme per se for Art for Hope. It's just art. So talked to the girls. Monday we have a committee meeting, but Sea Creative Photo Booths has volunteered their services to have a photo booth at the event this year,
Gotcha.
which is going to be really cool. They're a lot of fun.
It sounds like it's fun.
Yeah. And then we're going to have a new artist, a new feature artist. He does stained glass. I met with him last week. He came out to the studio. Super nice guy, really talented. He and his family moved down here a couple of years ago to Holiday. Peripheral Art is the name of his business. Chad, I'm going to butcher his name, but Jack Kubowski. I just call him Chad J. Anyway, he is actually creating a piece for the event.
Nice.
For auction. And then he'll have a few pieces at the event also. Super nice guy. We talked for quite a while. He really wants to get involved. So I'm excited about that. So if you want to help, we have a sponsor page. We have sponsorships available from $1,000 down to $25. Now, what we added this year is the friends and family, because what we're going to do at the event is like what we do at the Out of the Darkness Walk. When it works right. It doesn't usually work right, but we'll try and make it work right, where you can submit a photo of your loved one that you lost to suicide, along with their age, their name, and if you have a quote or a saying or something special you want, and so that during the event we'll have that rolling on a screen.
Nice.
To pay honor to those that we've lost to suicide.
Yeah, we did the same thing for the Nope Candlelight Vigil. There's always the photo, collage loop
Right.
showing. Then, of course, we have the big board that has, people can come in and actually put a physical picture on the board and then, take the photo one. I love those ideas. It sounds good. It sounds like fun.
Everybody's getting excited about it. And I posted this information on our social media pages and on other groups that I'm a member of. And a new sponsor coming on board is Pasco Camera. They're going to be a sponsor, and she's Annette and Jim Smetzer. I've known them since they started their business. I think they started about a year after me. We both started around the same time. She's going to put together some camera stuff for a basket for the raffle.
Gotcha.
So you want to get on board, because it's gonna be a good night. We talk about it a lot, but it's a hard subject to talk about. But this event is an uplifting event.
I see it as, I put a different spin on it. It is, it's a difficult subject, but, having difficult conversations are only as difficult as we make them. And I look at it as it's the mindset, that we have when we go into talking about, whatever it is we're talking, even if it is those difficult conversations. Because I think about, for instance, or using this topic as an example, whether I'm talking about, Aiden or Patrick or, anybody else that we lost, or everything in my daily work, I talk, let people know, it's like, okay, let's process our feelings and, figure out what's going on, kind of get a grasp on what's going on. And, it's okay to feel the sadness. It's okay to feel, the grief and the despair. At the same time, I think as we've always said, getting into a place to where, like, what was the phrase? It's okay to not be okay. And being okay with that. There's a whole lot of okays going on there. I've found, like, even within myself, it's gotten easier, I think, to talk about the loss. I still can't say the D word, the D word, or that word, the initials are PA. I still have a hard time, saying those words when it comes to discussing either Aiden or Patrick. So it's always the day they left, and then they
Right.
create some confusion, and some people are like, where'd they go?
Right.
And I was like, oh, they're in heaven. And I was like, I can't say the D word.
Right.
Or I used to tell people, it's like, he left, I said, I can't say the D word. It's just something about, I don't know, can't say, does it make it real, or it's like, it's that my little last piece of, hanging on. And it's not like that at all. It's just, now if I talk about somebody else or something else, I don't want to say it's easier for that word to come out. But then again, I find there's times where, since Pat's been gone, I have a hard time saying that word with anybody.
Right.
What do you mean? Oh, this one's gone. What's wrong with the D word? Can't get it out of my mouth.
Well, and it kind of like too, I was on a Zoom this morning. We applied for a grant through the United Way Pasco for the Hope Scholarship Program that we want to, that we're starting to start, which is to help pay for and refer people to different types of services, whether it be counseling or therapy, or a month worth of gym's membership at 9 Round to beat some bags up, or we've got several different opportunities to help people within our community. So I got through to the last stage of the process for that one program. We applied for 3 and we got to choose 1 to present. And so when we were having the conversation, I told him, I said, I'm going to be kind of graphic. It may be kind of hard for some of you to hear, but I believe this is the only way that we're ever going to break through this. We can't sugarcoat it.
Right.
And it was good. I don't know how the interview went, but it was presented anyways. But, and I kind of started to do that when I'm talking with groups, just to give them a heads up, because to just come out and say, and not with just me, but with people that we've helped through our organizations, that so and so was found hanging from a tree. It's kind of some people might get set back, but if we don't talk right about it, we're never going to break through this stigma.
Well, and I look at it, I think about when I'm at work, okay, when I'm in my daytime, not in the studio work, and I work with groups, from a group of toddlers right now, up through adults, and last Wednesday I was working with an adult group. The first time I was talking to that group, And, as I was explaining, what we're, the process and what we're going to be doing and, the kind of the group, I say kind of the group dynamics, I told them, I said, how I approach groups with you guys is very different than how I would approach groups when I'm in, with a group of middle schoolers. Just very different than when I'm approaching a subject with, the little, the toddlers that I almost said ankle biters. Smelly was like, "You have ankle biters." I was like, "Stop!" But
Oh, I haven't heard that term in a while.
well,
That's
ankle
funny.
biters.
I don't-
Yeah, no.
Oh, I used to call them that all the time.
What I found, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole for a minute. Depending on the, it's like if they're little kids, like the, up to 2, so like birth to 2 years old, what do we call it? I'd say we. Sherman says those are toe suckers. And then, when they're, the terrible 2s to elementary, those are the ankle biters. And then, the elementary school, those are the calf huggers. And then, the regular kids after that. So who came up with these? I don't know. I think I did. But anyway, no, seriously, coming out of that rabbit hole. What I find when I'm talking about things, it's all about the approach. And, oftentimes what I find with this topic is I set no expectations for the group that I'm, especially if it's an adult group. I set no expectations because what I find is if I go in with the mindset that you guys are not going to be able to handle what I'm about to say, I've done a disservice, not only to them, but potentially to myself. And it's like, all right, I don't want anything, or I make it a point not to put any barriers in place that's going to, say, impede the information, that I'm going forward. So like, for example, when I'm talking to a group of people, and we're talking about the dangers of substance misuse. And one of the first things I do is I play the interview that I did for Fox for Evan, and I don't tell them it's me.
Right.
I just look at them and say, we're going to watch a clip. Clip's about 3 minutes long. I want you, and we're going to talk about it afterwards. And I just, sit back and the clip starts, and it starts out, you got decks of cards, dominoes, the Joker, and then it says, Bonnie Snyder can't bear to part with any of it. And, as soon as they hear the Bonnie Snyder, they see my picture, or they, see my face, I'm sitting in my living room. And at one point, after he says that, you hear me say, it's like I'm giving my son away. And, we start, talking about, this epidemic, the opioid epidemic and addictions and whatnot. But anyway, when the clip is all over, I always, kind of watch and gauge what the response is to the people in the room. And when it's all over, what did you guys notice about the clip? Was that you? I said, yes, that was me. You guys just got to see the inside of my house. You saw my living room. You saw my son's room. Now let's talk about the dangers of addiction. Now, why did I do that, guys? Because I wanted you to put a face on it. If I had walked in here and told you that I lost a child to addiction, would you believe me? No. All right, now let's talk about it. And it's the same thing like with this going back to if we keep it suicide specific. If I told you that I lost a grandson to suicide, would you believe me? No? Okay. And here's his picture. His name was Aiden, and, his mother found him in his closet. And they were like, what? And I was like, now, we'll just put a face on suicide, substance misuse, we'll fuse the two together. Because I think sometimes what I find with difficult conversations is when we're talking about, this is a hard, this is difficult to talk about, this, this is not easy to hear. I sometimes feel it's not so much that it's not easy to hear, it's more that we're uncomfortable talking about it. Like, now I see, for instance, what I said, what I feel, when I'm going to put on that hat for a moment, sometime, and I'll put it sometimes on it. It's not, I don't believe in the all or nothing black and white thinking. It just drives some of my friends crazy. Of course, it does my children. One of my kids. Do you have to be a therapist all the time? Oh my God, you don't take that. It's like, I take the hat off when I go home and hang it up, but my brain, I've always thought analytically, even before I got into the field, mind you. I guess I've always been an analytical thinker. And I was like, I'm not at work, stop, or yes, I do. And this, depending on, but anyway, thinking analytically, as I'm like, oh, this is a difficult topic. I'm like, is it difficult for them or is it difficult for me? And I think once, we get out of that mindset of, yeah, it's difficult, but who's it more difficult for? And if we're projecting the difficulty from ourselves onto somebody else, then, we're, a repeat here. We're doing a disservice to the information that we're putting out there. I may have a hard time saying, when I go, my son, and I substitute the word, my son left, instead of my son, that D word or that PA word. But at the same time, while I'm doing that, I am mindful to tell people I have a hard time with that word now. That's how my brain is processing the loss. I have a hard time with that word. I have a hard time talking about the subject. And there are times where we get misty-eyed and emotional about it. That's the nature of the beast. But at the same time, it's like I can talk about things that, and in my head it's like, this conversation might be hard for some people. Or, if it's another topic, this conversation may anger somebody, may cause somebody to, it's going to cause somebody to feel uncomfortable. And and once, if I'm talking to a group, if I'm able to, pinpoint, I love behavior. One of my areas of concentration is behavior. So if I look at it and I'm getting behavioral cues from people, that's like, okay, this person's processing, they're right here. This person, they, appear, they can give a care less, like they're checked out. This person is engaged, but they're uncomfortable. And then what I tend to is I'm going to focus, to the most uncomfortable person in the room and present it in a way that it eases some of them. I'm not going to erase, the idea is not to erase all of the discomfort, but at least I'm going to speak to the discomfort. Okay, what are you feeling right now? How do you feel about what I just said? Which is why I said, again, one of my questions is, if I told you that it was me, would you have believed me? No. How come? And we get all kinds. If I told you, and you throw in these random questions, then how come? Okay? And, I think in that same interview where, Sheriff Nako said, addiction is a disease. And it's like, okay, guys, I'll let you know. So you will look at these topics through this lens and this lens only. It is not until somebody comes along and puts a different lens on the topic, it's always going to be that prism is always going to be here. Which, and I know I just went down this rabbit hole and this tirade over, it's only as difficult as we make it.
Well, yes, and I agree to some extent, but I noticed that, when I started going out into the public and speaking about the foundation or about what happened with us, for the foundation. In the beginning, and I've said it on here before, as soon as the people in the room found out what I was going to talk about, I could feel the energy in the room change and their expressions on their face change, and not for the good. You could just feel it. And that happened more often than not. Now, since I've been doing this, I don't know, I started speaking about a year and a half after, so say, probably 5 years, 4 years. Most people now know that if I'm coming to talk to them, this is what she's going to be talking about. People are a little bit more comfortable, and I don't know if it is just because they've gotten used to knowing that, or, I don't know what it is. But in the beginning, I could see it on them, and even all the way through to the end. Although you could see a few people towards the end of the conversation were a lot better, were a lot lighter, and every time somebody who had never spoken about their experience since whenever it happened. One was as far back as like 16 years prior to that, and it was his own son. Never spoke about it, would come up and share their story with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I don't think it's so much, at least with my experience, so much of me projecting on them. I try and feel the room. I mean, I do like what you do. I watch the people and I see how they change, how they're sitting, how they're looking. You can tell how they feel as you go through it.
But I think it's also important to note that when we're gauging our audience, or getting ready to engage a group, you and I can walk into the same room. I look at it, I liken it to going and seeing a movie or reading a book. We can go in, see the same exact movie, and we walk out. That movie sucked.
So totally different.
And it's like, what are you talking about? It was the best movie ever. It's the best movie I've ever seen. Like, wow. And the same thing with looking at a room. It's like, wow, this is a really low energy room. What are you talking about? They're not low energy. I see them as, just kind of like even keel, or they are really not interested in what we're talking about. What are you talking about? Yes,
right.
Yes, they are. And so again, I will stand by this. What we take away from an audience or a discussion. A good portion of that is filtered, or we filter it through how we're feeling about it at the moment.
And our interpretation of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our interpretations are usually created, developed based on our respective, experiences.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because now, with this discussion, I'm thinking about the first time I applied for a grant with the same organization and got through to the last part of it. I had everybody on the board in tears, and I thought, oh, for sure, we're going to get this grant, and we didn't. This year, nobody cried, so maybe we'll get the grant this year.
Well, and I think too, with when we look at grants and focus and whatnot, I ask myself, what is the hot button or relevant issue at the time? And I sit back and I think about, for like our, who I work for, the coalition. We write, I don't write them, so I don't do grant writes. Grants are written all the time, for this, and
Right.
And it's like, hey, nothing beats a failure but a try. So we'll go in and it's like, hey, let's write a grant about this. And it's like, you know what, we had to choose between topic A and topic B, and right now topic B, is like center stage, hot. But not that your topic isn't important, but this is the one that is most relevant right now. So we're going to funnel the money, over here. I look at it as like, okay, I didn't get you this time. There's always next time.
There's always next time. Well, it's like the first one that we did with this organization was, I can't remember if we did it for the purple folders, or no, we were going to do it for support group. That was right when COVID was. So this one here, this time we applied for 3 different causes. They would only accept one. So it's like, okay, which is, this one we can take care of. This one kind of will take care of itself in the long run. This is what we need now, which the emphasis was, of course, is the emphasis of the foundation to begin with, is to help lost survivors so that we don't have more suicides within that community of people. We've said, before, suicide loss survivors, whether it could be a coworker, a family member, a friend, are at a 400 times greater risk for suicide than the general public. One suicide can affect, on the average, 139 people. Run those numbers with the suicides within your community. When I did, I was like, I had to rerun the numbers. I'm like, that's a lot. And we don't want to, we want to be there to help and lift them up and support them through this horrendous time in their life. It could be a lifetime, but for them to be here.
I mean, it is a lifetime thing. Let's look at it when you lose people. I was at work. I was talking to our manager of the team that I'm on, and I forget even how we got on this topic. And I had oh my goodness, we were talking about grief and loss and whatnot, and I started processing anger. And, I looked at her and, we're just kind of chit-chatting, and I was like, yeah, I can remember, when I was angry, with the situation, and, and who I was angry at. And she said something, and, what about this? What about this? And I was like, my son's not coming back. I mean, that's, he's not coming back. I'm not going to go home, I'm not going to go to Tampa International Airport, and a plane's going to come in from, the other side and say, hey, we're bringing these people. If only it were that easy. But again, it was like, navigating through knowing that plane is not, that plane is taken off. It's not coming back. At the same time, it's like, I know the plane is gone. I know that he's gone. I know he's not coming back. All right. What do I do with the rest of my life? It is a lifelong issue.
It is. And so we're going to get to chapter 13 today, because that is perfect for chapter 13. Your grief, your way. We've been going through this book for a while. It's an awesome book. You can get this book through Amazon, and that QR code will take you right to it. And a portion of the money, Amazon does really great with their foundations, and Bobby White Foundation is charity on Amazon, so you could choose it as your charity of choice and go through this with us. And the good thing about it too is, like, if you're just seeing us for the first time and you want to do this, all of our shows are on demand on the website.
Nice.
And so you can still go through this book chapter by chapter or week by week with us if you
Or
want.
any book that we've gone through for that fact.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yes. Two of the other books are on there on the website also.
Yeah, this is our fourth book? Is it third or fourth book?
Well, on the website I have it as our third book, but I swear there's another book that we have done, but I haven't figured that one out yet. Because I have 3 on the website. So, I don't know. All kind
It's
of.
at least our third. It's at least our
It's
third
at
book.
least
We just
our
know
third
This is at least the third book we've gone through.
So, Grief Your Way, she says here, grief is not an enlightenment program for a select few. No one needs intense, life-changing loss to become who they are meant to be. Life is not casual in that way. You need to become something. Yeah. So life gives you a horrible experience in order to make it happen. On the contrary, life is call and response. We respond to what we experience, and that is neither good nor bad. It simply is. The path forward is integration, not betterment. And that's what you do. We just have to learn how to integrate it into our life because
That's what I just
it's
said.
a part.
The plane has taken off.
Right.
It's
exactly.
a plane that's not coming
back.
And, it is, understanding and accepting that it's a plane that's gone. I like what she says in that last sentence. The path forward is integration, not betterment. Because times, how many times do you hear people say, when someone's lost, they're in a better place?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And, and I'm going to look and say, I was guilty of the very same thing and say,
I think we all have been.
they're in a better place. They're not suffering anymore. And then finally, I found myself like, better for who?
Exactly.
Like, better for who? Do because, you sit back and think about it. It was obviously not better for those of us who are left behind. We want that person here. But I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, I'm almost willing to, I will bet you, I'm not a betting person, mind you, but I'm willing to bet you everything that I own that the person is gone would much rather be here, with amongst us. Even, and I expect a little pushback, but Bonnie, whoa. What about the person who is lost due to suicide? And I would look at you and say, and I bet you that person, I'm still willing to make that same bet with you, that even the person that is lost through suicide didn't want, they were trying to end what was going on with them at that moment. If that thing wasn't going on, there would not have been, there's a potential, I should say, that would not have been an out. And I think what I find, I think back, years ago when I did, this kind of training. I was working in a jail at the time, and I do, specific training with uniform and non-uniform staff. We were talking about, dealing with people who were depressed and then, potential suicide, and hey, I see that you're depressed. Let's talk it out. Let's talk about, this is not, could you name me a time that you were sad before? Yeah, all right. How did you get through that? What strategies did you use to pull yourself out of that funk? Oh, I did this. Okay. It worked for you before. Let's put it in play and let it work for you again. Or hopefully it'll work for you again. And if not, find something different.
Right.
But at that moment when, the person is like, okay, I'm done, I'm checking out, it's over, it is because at that time for them, things are not going to get better, per se. So it is an issue of how do I integrate whatever the crappiness that's going on. Like if I use, again, if I use Aiden, for example, I don't know why, but if it was, say, this breakup, let's just say it was a breakup with a girlfriend, how do I integrate single life into, being single into my life now? How do I, as a teenager, integrate, say that, what I would say, that life lesson that, guys, you don't have to be in a relationship. I get it. You're teenagers. You guys are brand new. You guys are starting out. Trust me. Relationships are kind
Just
of
wait.
related. Like, been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. Why not? Greg, don't kill me. I'm not talking about you, dear. But seriously, and I would say, prior to,
Well, they've done tons of interviews with people who have attempted suicide, and they, for the most part, they all say they didn't really want to die.
Right.
They just wanted the pain to stop
Right.
in that moment.
And I think that's that's a huge takeaway. Is again, where if we go back to the path forward is integration. When we're looking at someone who is in that much emotional pain, again, how do you integrate the pain that you're feeling into everything else to lessen the emotional pain that you're in? It's almost like I use my oldest brother as an example. This guy's my hero, and I probably talked about him before here, with the fact that he's lost both of his arms and both of his legs, but he's learned to integrate. I mean, he could have said, I'm done, like his his career as a mechanic done, or so we thought. We would have said he'd never work on another car. He is willing to be depressed. Is he going to want, like, I could not imagine being a quadruple amputee. How, world kind of processes. And I loved what my brother said, and it hits home with us where, he's under the car with my nephew, and, his wife came, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I listened to my brother tell me this story. It's so hilarious. What are you doing? What are you doing? And, he was like, woman, leave me alone. He goes, use a little more colorful language in that. But he says, what I wanted people to understand is they've taken my arms, they've taken my legs. What they haven't taken was my mind. And I had to take a step back for a moment, and I was like, that is so profound. And, so here, we're looking at someone who, one might say, by rights, should be like, knee-deep, waist-deep in depression. Just, okay, so you know what? And, when he finally got the ability to drive again, it was like a wave of relief for him. He was like, thank goodness. I have my car back. I can drive. And I'm like, and, his thing was, I don't like the industry. It's very independent. We all have a little independent street. I don't like it depending on anybody. And I'm like, wow. So you've really integrated being a quadruple amputee into life and not let it, control the rest of you. So I really love, that sentence right there. The path forward is integration, not betterment. So,
This chapter, she gives you it's almost like the whole chapter is gives you a chance to reflect. She has a lot of space for writing and reflecting. She has on here, I highlighted like almost this whole chapter. So I'm like trying to pick out, okay, which are going to be the highlighted parts.
one thing I like, 'cause I know you're on like the next page, but going back to that first page where she says, when you choose to find meaning or growth inside your loss, there's an art of personal sovereignty and self-knowledge. And I was like, again, going back to what does this loss mean to, each of us, or anybody who suffered a loss? What does that loss mean to you? How do you take that loss, process that loss? How do you, how do you define your, does Tammy White define herself as a widow? Does Tammy White define herself as Bobby White's wife? Does Tammy define herself as, or do you...
It's kind of funny that you say that, because I had a customer come and pick something up the other day, and I was having, so-so day, and he was getting ready to leave, and he says, you can't let this define you.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I was like, but you also can't unsee what you saw.
Well, and
But it's not that, and it's not that, I don't know, I think maybe it kind of is, because, I don't know, because it's like, and then he says, too, I couldn't do what you do on an everyday basis with the foundation and dealing with what you're dealing with.
But what I like about, when I hear him saying, you cannot let this define you.
Right.
And I would look at you and say, I would say the same thing. This loss, our, personal journeys, it's not what's defining you. Yeah, I get it when you say, but you can't unsee what you can't not see what you saw, kind of thing. And I understand that. And it's the same thing if I don't want to say do a comparison, but if I put you in the same category, say that I would Kira, okay? You're the one that found Bobby. Kira was the one that found Aiden. What I see is, you're right, you can't, or what I process, I should say, you can't unsee that. At the same time, just because you see something, it potentially shouldn't define or haunt you for the rest of your life. Can you ever get that image out of your head? No. But eventually, I think what happens, I hate the word but, I really do. Eventually, as as this sentence where she says sovereignty means claiming your right to be yourself even when it upsets others, but I also look at it's the right to decide what has meaning and what brings comfort, and I look at that in terms of, in that same thing of not letting it define you. All right, so it's like, all right, it sucks that I saw what I saw, however, at the same time, and people are like, how do you find comfort in any of that? And I say, believe it or not, you can find comfort in the crappiest of things.
You actually can, because, and I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago, I had a bonfire because the branch of the tree came down on the ground finally. So I cut it up. And I did a video posting of it, and because it was like, I'm burning this branch. It's not going to be here anymore. I don't have to look at it anymore. Nobody knows what branch it was except for me. And on that video too, and then I did just a post of a picture, and in both of those posts, I said, I'm sorry this may be difficult, but this is what I have to do. And both times somebody came back and said, Tammy, you do not ever be sorry for what this is.
And for me, I took it in a slightly different direction, and I attach some symbolism to it.
Yeah, well, it is.
Because, given that it was the branch.
Right.
Okay, and we know what
But
branch we're talking about.
yeah.
That the branch
We
is.
don't need to go into detail.
That,
this time.
that branch fell out of the tree. Okay, I mean, just of all the branches that could break, it would be that one branch. And I look at it, and the symbolism is one of, you know what, Tammy, this was like I look at it, this was a sign of saying, okay, that's, if you're still holding on to, the horror, the negativity, let it go. Or is this,
Well, a couple people.
or was this,
thought that way.
Bobby's way of saying, look, chick, knock it off. Or, hey, look, I'm still here, but I want, maybe I need to knock this blessed branch
Right.
down. So you remember me as I was and not as I
Not-
am. And I'm not saying that you
Yeah.
don't do that,
Right.
or, that you don't have that capability, but I look at, same thing like when I'm walking around the house and I, hear something in the kitchen and I'm like, you're still here.
Well, and I think sometimes, it's starting to happen more and more on the better side of it than on the bad side of it. And that's kind of the way I felt too when that branch came down. It was almost a relief. And it's like, okay, I've been working on this really, really hard for over a year. Maybe the turning point is coming, and actually I was down in St. Pete the other day, last week, pick up a piece of equipment, and my brother-in-law, Mary, my sister-in-law who's been on the show, her husband's mom passed away. And so I went down to the memorial service. Well, there's a place in St. Pete that I like to go and eat. I used to meet a friend down there when she was alive called Punky's. And the bartender there was really nice. Get my meal, everything, talking. Somehow the foundation and losing my husband came up. The bartender had just lost his sister 6 months ago to suicide. And so we talked, and he told me stories things that he got to do with her before she passed away. And of course I gave him a purple folder and everything, and he started crying, and he started to apologize. And I'm like, don't ever apologize. And I wish I could do a shout out to his name. He has a really cool name. He was a really cool guy, but I can't remember his name, but he's a really awesome bartender down there. But it was weird how that series of events happened, and we got to talk and gave each other a big hug, and it was really kind of cool.
And I look at that experience, speaks to where it says no truth but yours, and he goes, how people, where she says, how people say things like, he wouldn't want you to be sad. I always feel like snapping back. Pretty sure he'd want me to tell the truth and not lie about how I feel.
Yeah.
And so, with you looking at him, it's like, don't ever apologize.
Yeah, don't.
Apologize. If I'm feeling some kind of way, like when I go and I'm talking to my coworkers and whatnot, I look at my coworkers and I always, not put them on the spot, but I give them a heads up. I just put it on the spot, has a bit different negative. But I look at them and I will say, I'm in my feelings today. Or, when I came back to work, guys, we all know, because we're all in the field, we're all in this profession, that this is a phase. And one day, I'm going to hit that anger stage. I know it. I do not know what that looks like. So I'm going to apologize. And everyone's like, I'm going to apologize in advance. But the thing about it is, I sat back and, much like when I was talking to my manager, and other people, I'm not apologizing for my feelings. I'm okay. Like the same way we tell our people, you feel what you want to feel. I'm going to do the same thing. So, I
No,
think-
no truth but yours.
Yeah, and I think that's a good, just I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah.
I think that's a good stopping point, and we'll,
It is, because we need to mention that last Saturday, the rollout of 988 happened across the United States. So that number was added to our list of prevention hotline numbers. Rob, you got the one that has all those? Well, yeah, the Lifeline number down at the bottom. That's the new one.
I listened to an interview, of the director, of the 988, and it's like, oh, how's this going to work and everything like that. And one thing that he said was very profound that I think people would know. He was like, the infrastructure hasn't changed, the number
The
has.
number.
So when you call 988, you're going to get the same people. But
They're trying to add to the infrastructure. They're trying to get more resources out there, but it's just an easier number for everybody to remember.
Yeah.
So our positive quote for today: some days I feel like I'm making you proud and honoring your memory, but some days I feel heavy with heartache and loss in this world without you.
I like that.
That's how I feel a lot of times. But I hope that with what you and I are doing here, that Aiden and Patrick and Bobby are proud of what we're doing.
I know they are.
You
I
know?
know they are.
So on that note, remember, there's
There's always
always hope. Thanks for joining us.